Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh, and in this video we shall discuss the featured news for 3rd September 2021, which is on the Indus Water Treaty. Lately, this treaty has again been in news because Pakistan has raised certain objections on India's construction of the Kiru hydroelectric plant. And in this context, we will understand the whole context in which this treaty was formulated. That means the concept of upper and lower riparian states. Then we will also understand the various terms of this treaty. For example, the usage of water for agricultural purposes, the usage of water for non-consumptive and domestic purposes, and how this division has happened. We will also understand the issues that are in focus in these times and what is the way out. This image depicts the map of India along with Pakistan and the Indus River. Some left bank tributaries as well, which are Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas and Satluj. Before moving ahead, a quick way to remember the left bank tributaries and the river itself is through this mnemonics. Indu, just change rags to bags. Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas and Satluj. Bags has Beas and Satluj both. Now, during the time of 1947, when the territories got partitioned, there was some way that was to be used to be able to divide the water as well, right? And India was the upper riparian state. Upper riparian state is the one which utilizes the benefits of the water before the other states, and therefore Pakistan becomes the lower riparian state, right? And India gets the privilege of the upper riparian state because India has the first right to all the water. And this is where the treaty was required. So in 1960, there was a treaty signed between India and Pakistan, and this treaty was brokered by World Bank. The main idea was to be able to divide the water in all these rivers, because the population which is based in this area, it is largely dependent on agriculture, and therefore division of water becomes important. Water is an important entity for life. This area was the one where one of the major civilizations happened, right? The Indus Valley civilizations. And therefore, we also know that 80% of water is consumed for agriculture purpose only, right? And we also have to note that Pakistan is largely dependent on Indus River only for water division. And therefore, this treaty divided the water in proportion of 80:20, with 80 getting to Pakistan and 20 being utilized by India. It was said in the treaty that the east rivers, so eastern rivers are these three rivers. We have Ravi, Beas and Satluj. These three rivers, the water has to be utilized by India, and the upper three rivers, they are the western rivers, that is Indus, Jhelum and Chenab. The water will be utilized by Pakistan. However, it is not completely black and white, right? The water which flows from India can later be utilized by Pakistan as well. There is no harm on that. And also, if the water from Indus and Jhelum and Chenab is utilized by India for specific purposes, some specific purposes, that is also fine. So we will discuss that very quickly. So this was the background of the treaty. The three ways in which water can be utilized is: one, domestic use; second, non-consumptive use; and the third one is agricultural use. So on the basis of this eastern and western flow, eastern and western rivers, the water usage was divided. For example, the eastern three rivers, as I mentioned, Ravi, Beas and Satluj, India can utilize the water for domestic use as well, for non-consumptive use and for agricultural use as well. So what are the domestic usage? Domestic usage is, for example, for drinking, washing, bathing, recreation activities, household activities, municipal purpose activities, for example, giving water to the plants, right? Then industrial activities like mining, milling, etc. So this is domestic use. Remember, mining, milling also comes in domestic use. The second one is non-consumptive use. Now, do focus on this word, non-consumptive. That means the water does not get consumed, but there is some utility of water in the region. So navigation, floating, right? Flood control, fishing, wildlife. So this is the place where water gets utilized. However, it is not used by the country. So this is very important. And the third one is agriculture use for cultivating crops, right? Now, for the eastern rivers, all these three usage were given to India. And after that, India can let the water flow to enter into Pakistan and it being used for all the activities. This is one point. For the western rivers, the issue was such that India could use the water for non-consumptive use. Non-consumptive use is fine. That means India could use it for navigation, floating, flood control, fishing, wildlife. Also, it was said that agricultural use and domestic use, will they be completely curtailed? No. What happens if people want to cultivate through the water of Jhelum in Srinagar? And what if people want to cultivate through the water of Chenab River in Jammu and Kashmir area? So for that, the treaty was designed such that there would be restricted agricultural and domestic usage, restricted use, right? Now this is where the Pakistan has got contention. Now, let us get into the contentions that countries have. Pakistan usually contends about the hydroelectric power generation by India on the western rivers. We are talking of Indus, Jhelum and Chenab, right? Now, the contention usually is on the kind of power projects. Now, there are two kinds of HEP that India usually installs. One is the one where reservoir is created, where water gets stored, and this is where Pakistan starts to contend that you cannot store water. India doesn't do this at all, right? Because it can easily be spotted also by the satellites. And then we have a dam here, and the river keeps flowing, it can go into the next country as well. This is one kind of project. The other one is the one where is run of the river. So there is hardly any water storage here. That means that even in lean periods, you cannot store water here. Here, you can store the water in the lean periods and utilize them even for creation of electricity. So this is the basic difference. And India is allowed to have these kind of projects. These are called as run of the river projects. So no storage of water in the reservoir. India also is creating this. Kiru is also a run of the river project, but Pakistan still contends. This is one thing. The second one is, can you divert canals? Yes, we can divert canals, but only in the eastern rivers, not on the western rivers, because there is a limited use in agriculture and domestic kind of activities. We can have non-consumptive usage. We cannot change the flow of the river. This is the image of a run of the river project. Small amount of water is diverted at height so that later it is utilized for running the turbine in the main system, and after that water is let out and it joins the mainstream. Therefore, there is no storage of water in this kind of project. Getting back to the article in news, we are talking about the Kiru hydroelectric project over Chenab, which is for 624 megawatt capacity, right? India is fully compliant to the terms of the Indus Water Treaty. However, Pakistan has got objections on this run of the river project as well, right? Now, Jal hi Jeevan hai. Where there is water, there is life. And therefore, this water from Indus becomes very significant for both the countries. Both the countries fight to preserve their own water and to utilize it. How does India utilize this water? First way India utilizes this is by creation of canals so that water supply is unrestricted to those areas which require irrigation. This is one. Second, we also need energy, and water can be used to have energy, right? So HEP, hydroelectric power projects, are created. Now, the three rivers, the eastern rivers, can be completely utilized, yes, and certain amount of water also needs to flow to Pakistan, but the western rivers cannot be utilized by diverting the water, and therefore in these western rivers we can definitely have HEP, hydroelectric power plants in Jammu and Kashmir region. Now, can you imagine what kind of employment it will give to the people and prosperity in the region? It can definitely change the whole scenario of Jammu and Kashmir. However, this is where the objections come by Pakistan, that there are some problems, although many of the cases India has clearly won in the International Court of Arbitration. However, Pakistan's duty is to object, right? Now, these projects are very important from the perspective of international relations in the region as well. Why? Because China is the one which is constructing its China-Pakistan economic corridor just close by, and therefore China keeps helping Pakistan also in having energy requirements, right? And this is where if China objects to India's developments, this is good for both the countries, and therefore it is strategically very important for India to fully utilize the potential of HEP and of the water as well, right? It also becomes important for territorial sovereignty of the country, because if India does not develop, China and Pakistan will develop in the same region with the same water. And for the same reason, India has been constructing canals on the three eastern rivers. India has also been constructing a number of HEP on the western three rivers so that development be spurred. And this is what we have explained in this segment of the article. There's certain challenges to India's plan. For example, while India starts to plan these kind of projects, Pakistan raises its objections. And we, during the times of preparation, have read about Salal Dam, Baglihar, Kishan Ganga project, Ratle, and now we have this Kiru as well. So these are the kind of objections that come on the way to India's development projects. Also, border issues. When there are increased number of border issues or attacks on India, then this is where India stops conversations, stop discussions on the development of these projects, because primarily all the developments have to be shared with Pakistan as well. India stops these conversations and India still proceeds with the projects. And then there is an issue of these cases, arbitration, and it is delaying for both the countries, right? The third issue is of Pakistan's project. Now, Pakistan also has another project near Run of Kutch, left bank outfall drain. And this is the drain in which a lot of water from Indus River also seeps in. It also later settles in the Kutch area of India. And India also again needs information about the project, because this is a part of the treaty that both the countries will be sharing the developments that are happening across the river. This treaty was formulated in the year 1960, and right now we are living in the times of 2021, and therefore there is a possibility that we should consider issues of global warming, issues of water availability, fresh water availability for human civilization, and therefore we could revisit the treaty. Also, there must be a question in your mind, why Pakistan gets 80% of water and India gets only 20? One important reason you could really imagine could be very simple. Pakistan is probably solely dependent on the water from Indus. This is one reason it gets more share. Also, the amount of population living in that particular area. So this is how the World Bank brokered the treaty, and they were accepted by both the countries. Now, during the times of state-sponsored terrorism by Pakistan in India, India talks of revoking this treaty. However, revoking this treaty is not a possible solution. What is definitely possible is for India to utilize its complete 20% of share of water. Presently, India does not even utilize its complete 20% of the water, and this is where India must create separate canals so that water can be distributed to different channels. This is where India is already acting upon, right? Now, this treaty is an example of peaceful coexistence of a treaty, even during tough times, even during the wars between the nations. And this is a very good example of that, right? Now, this treaty is dubbed as uninterrupted and uninterruptible. After having understood various facets of this treaty, the way this treaty was designed, the upper and lower riparian concept of the states, and how this water was to be utilized in three kind of different activities: agriculture, non-consumptive use, and the domestic use. All you got to do is take 30 seconds and start thinking about the various dimensions of Indus Water Treaty. After that, you can attempt this question, which says, discuss the Indus Water Treaty with its significance for India. Elaborate on the projects undertaken by India on the basis of Indus Water Treaty. If you like this video, shower some love on us through likes, comments, and shares. If you happen to subscribe to the channel, you will receive timely updates. Thanks for watching.